Happy New Year if you just joined us once again. But South Africa has an alarming high percentage of illiteracy. But there is a shining light of hope, and that is the Nal'ibali project or organization that's coming to us with a national reading program for an enjoyment. 700 schools will benefit from this around the country. And joining us this morning is the Managing Director, Jade Jacobsohn. Welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Even I've had first-hand experience. I'm thinking of most of us that have tons of books at home, but no one reads to our children. And so we want to talk about this morning. Where do we stand in terms of literacy in our country? I mean, if we think of percentage and even numbers.
So South Africa is standing in quite a sad position. There was a SACMEC study recently of 15 Southern African countries and the literacy levels of grade 6s in those countries. And if the rest of those 15 countries are about here, South Africa, unfortunately, is about here. So we've got the third highest proportion of functionally illiterate children in grade 6 in those 15 sub-Saharan African countries.
How does Nal'ibali make it accessible or even fun for learners to learn and to read?
So the big thing that Nal'ibali does is we work to train an army of adults across the country to break stories open to children and bring the power of stories home. So the big thing we do is we have over 1,000 reading clubs. We work with partners. About 35,000 children every single week are in a Nal'ibali reading club that has its own name. It often has its own war cry. That's a very powerful place to get a sense of belonging and identity. And at those reading clubs, adults are reading to kids, kids are reading to kids. Kids might be reading by themselves. They'll be lying on their back, they'll be lying on their tummy. They choose the books that they want to read themselves. It's unintimidating. There's games, there's fun. They can finish the stories off themselves. They can write letters to the characters in the books. And we try and get kids to engage with, have opportunities to read books that aren't about learning. It's just about what happens to the character next.
Oh, I love that. It sounds engaging. Okay, now you've recently spread your wings. I mentioned earlier you're bringing this program to 700 schools. So we're talking Eastern Cape, KZN. How are you going to achieve this?
So this is a new part of our program. We are in schools across the country already, but in early 2015, we started speaking to the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, and the Department of Basic Education. And we prayed and prayed and prayed to the fairy godmother of funding. And in September last year, the funding was awarded. This year, we'll have a very focused program at 240 schools a year for 3 years in rural Eastern Cape and rural KZN. And it's called Story Powered Schools, the South African Reading Revolution. And the whole aim behind it is to show parents, to show teachers that there is a value, an educational value to children reading for enjoyment, and to help them to run reading clubs, and then to make sure that we have reading materials in the right languages as well in classrooms, because often classrooms just have reading materials that are English or Afrikaans, and children actually need to learn in the language that they speak in the language that they think in. And so we're going to make sure that in these schools we get these stories out there, and should the project go well, because it's being externally evaluated, and we anticipate that it will go well, there is a great possibility that this will be rolled out then across the country.
I must say we've had an exciting week so far since we've all come back from holiday here on our Feel Good Breakfast Show, because yesterday we also talked about how do we end up not sending our children to OT? You know, how do we get them to move at home, to read a bit, to page a book, to sit upright? What can we do at home? I mean, there are parents watching this morning. Some of our kiddies going to school for the first time today. What can we do at home? We've got a whole host of books and no one touches them because everyone's on TV games and iPads and all kinds of devices.
Well, I think the first thing I would suggest is that people go to nalibali.org. They sign up to be a Funda leader. So when you sign up to be a Funda leader, you join a network of thousands of South Africans who've committed to making stories important in their homes. Nal'ibali will then send you tips and advice on how you can do this. You can even have some training from Nal'ibali, a one-day inspirational course where we teach you how to tell stories, how to use your voice. And then on our website, you can download all of the reading materials absolutely for free in every South African language. But I think it's about sharing and having these nurturing moments with children. So let the child read, you read as well, and don't be afraid to be a kid yourself as you're doing this. So use your voice, be silly, sit on the floor.
Well, she's using her voice, and I must say it's totally engaging. Even I'm listening to you. It sounds like you're telling your own story, Jade. So thank you so much for joining us this morning. Nal'ibali, you heard it. You can sign up with them as well, and you heard it, be part of a community of people that's reaching out. We wish you only the best with that project. This is your Feel Good Breakfast Show. ZBZ Middle Child Brown, over to you.